Hi, and welcome to Matt Talk, a video podcast for the friends and family of Coming First United Methodist Church from me, Pastor Matt. This is a special Matt Talk that will be made available prior to, as well as a part of our regular Matt Talk on May the 8th, 2023. I'm excited to have with me today Dana Letchworth, who is our Committee on Finance Chair. She began her role there in January. And Susan Payne, who is our Director of Finance on staff here with us and has just taken on that role a few weeks ago, maybe. Yeah. So I'm appreciative for both of them being here today. Thank you for recording this Matt Talk with me, but also thank you for all that you have done and are doing and will do to help keep Coming First United Methodist Church financially healthy. So one of the first things I'd like to remind us all about is that the responsibility of the financial health of this congregation is not just that of the members of the Committee on Finance or that of the financial staff members. Every professing member of this church shares equally in the responsibility to keep Coming First United Methodist Church financially healthy. And even though we're not all able to give on the same level, we all are to share that responsibility equally in knowing what is going on and trying to be sure that we are always available to be cooperative with that to which God is calling us. In order for us to share in this responsibility, it's important that the leadership informs us all of the true financial picture of the church. And so today, Dana and Susan are joining me so that we can share with you and all of us can have a good picture of where we are financially as a church together. So on March 19th, we had our Pathways to Generosity Sunday when we made our estimates of giving to help the Committee on Finance and others to develop what I call our Ministry Action Plan, or MAP. Some people call it the budget, but budget sounds so ugly. Ministry Action Plan, it sounds so much better for me. So our MAP, our Ministry Action Plan, what is that going to be for the remainder of the year? So how many estimates did we wind up receiving on March 19th or the weeks thereafter?
So since the generosity ministry started, we received 181 estimates of giving for this campaign. And then last year, we had 162. So we saw an increase in the number of estimates of giving. And that was $1,048,950 that was estimated with this year. Last year, it was $861,373.
Wow. So that's an increase of what, right about, math person?
A little less
22%.
About 22% increase. Great. So it looks like our Pathways to Generosity went very well, and hopefully seeds have been planted that will continue to be fruitful in years to come of things that we learned about generosity. So for the first 3 months of 2023, what has been our total income from all sources towards our Ministry Action Plan? And for that same period, what's been our total expenses?
So far in first quarter, we have brought in for all areas $368,905. And in that same time, we have also spent $475,141.
And what's the difference of that?
It's about $106,000.
So we, in the first 3 months of 2023, have spent $106,000 more than we brought in.
That is correct.
So in order to cover that, when my checkbook gets to be zero, I can't keep spending. So, where are we getting the $106,000 from?
We had fortunately had some money kind of in reserves and savings that we have been able to use, but we are starting to deplete those funds now by going through and not having as much coming in to meet the expenses that we have to operate the church.
And do you know, when you said we had some, do you know even ballpark, are we talking about $1 million in reserves or $500,000 or $250,000 or what kind of ballpark?
We probably had $250,000 to $350,000.
So we're getting close to spending somewhere between a third and a half of our reserves that we had just in the first quarter.
Yep.
So that can't continue because I'm a math major, and I know that math doesn't work. So on average, the income, what has that been per month on average for the first 3 months?
It's been about 122,000, close to 123,000 per month. And our expenses have been about 158,000. So a difference of about 35,000 each
So
month.
on average, we're going in the hole about $35,000 a month.
Yes.
So that too, that math doesn't add up. So that we can't continue that. So what are the largest parts of our ministry action plan? I mean, where could we really make a difference in cutting? What's some of the biggest parts of our ministry action plan?
Well, I don't want to address it as areas where we need to be cutting, but the biggest areas of expense in our ministry action plan are the Staff Parish Relations Committee and the trustees.
And so those of you who don't know, the Staff Parish Relations Committee is the committee in our church that oversees all the salaries and benefits for all of our staff members. And of course, that is the largest part of our ministry action plan, as is the case in most businesses, I would think, and certainly has been the case in all the churches I've ever served. So that's normal. And the second area is the trustees. And again, for those of you who may not know, the trustees, under their budgets, all the utilities like gas and electricity and phone and those kinds of things are landscaping, pest control, cleaning services, repairs and maintenance for things like the HVAC system or the roof or anything like that that's not covered under insurance. All that's under there. So, and our debt that we still have for the sanctuary building is also under there. And right now, the debt on the church that we have for the sanctuary building is at
It's about $300,000 roughly right now.
$300,000. The other part of our budget is, or our finances to understand, is that there's two different classifications of the money that the church holds. We have what we call designated funds. Those are funds that have been given for specific purposes, and the Book of Discipline says that we can only spend those monies for what they were given for. The church always has the ability to not receive a gift that is given to us, but once we receive a gift for a specific purpose, we have to use it for that purpose. So we have those designated funds. They're not to be used to pay the electric bill or to pay the preacher's salary or anybody else's salary. They have to be used for what they're designated for. There are also undesignated funds, and those are the funds that we are free to use to fund our MAP or our ministry action plan and to pay the salaries and electric bills and all that. So thinking about those two different classifications, how much money do we have in designated funds that we can't use for just anything, but we do have that money available?
Right now we have just a little bit over $800,000 that is designated for certain purposes or set aside for a certain purpose.
But even if we can't pay our bills this month, we can't mess with that $800,000 because it's got to be spent for what it was given for. And what are some of maybe the top two or three largest funds that we have making up that $800,000?
The two would be the funds that we got from GDOT, and those funds are currently set aside to take care of repairing the church. And then we also have the funds that we've gotten from the insurance related to the December flood to do all the repairs and get the church back into the state it was before the flood.
All right, and the GDOT money, that's the Georgia Department of Transportation.
Correct.
And we sold part of our frontage to them because they're widening Highway 20, and we worked that out. And those funds are to help us pay for fixing the front of the church, as well as we've got to replace our sign at some point in time when they take that down, and we'll have to put up a new sign out front. So that's the GDOT money. And the insurance funds, GDOT money was probably what? Would you say about $300,000?
It was about $365,000.
Okay. And the insurance funds that we're about to pay out because we're about to finish up our repairs, that is what about?
It came close to $500,000.
$500,000. So how much money do we have in undesignated funds?
We have about $125,000 right now.
$125,000. Okay. And the total of the designated and undesignated funds is all the money the church has, correct?
It is.
So we have about $800,000 plus another $100,000 in undesignated. So we got about $900,000, and that includes everything: reserves, savings, everything we have. So at $100,000, and we're already going in the whole $35,000 a month, that's not going to work very long. What more do you feel that the congregation really needs to know about our financial health?
We have a very alive and strong congregation. We are very mission oriented. When I met with the new members a couple weeks ago, one of the things that was a constant message from all of them was that they loved the way this church was involved in the community. And we want to be able to continue to do those things. And in order to do those things, we have to have a balanced budget at worst, but preferably a little bit extra, so that when we get into these situations, or we have an issue that something needs to be repaired, or there's electricity bills skyrocket, that we have that money available, and that our focus as a church can be on our ministry and not constantly worried about how are we going to achieve a balanced budget. Nobody wants to cut any expenses. We've already done a great job. I think this church, the staff, the committees, all of the committees, not just the finance committee, have done a really good job looking at ways that we can save every penny. Susan's done a great job at finding things kind of hidden, that she's been a really good steward about the church's money. So I think from that perspective, we're doing a really good job. But we need some additional income. And people have been very generous with their estimates of giving, and we hope that people will continue to be generous, and will continue to pray about how they can contribute, and not just with their money, but with their time, and with all of their gifts to the church. So that's the message. We shared a lot of numbers that are, not super fantastic to hear, but I don't want the message to be that we're in dire straits. We just need to be conscious as a church where we stand, just like we would with our household budgets, and how can we help to make things, turn out a little bit more positive. So that's the message that I want to make sure everybody hears.
Yeah. So you had said earlier that our Pathways to Generosity brought in about $1,050,000, $1,048,000, something like that. And then we estimate people who didn't fill out an estimate, but they give regularly, and we figure they will continue to do that. That probably brings us about another $300,000, was it?
Just a little bit over 300,000.
So that we're at 1.3 million. And the last time our 2022 budget, before we messed with it or extracted it or anything, was about 1.8 million, I think. So so we are looking at needing at least about $500,000. And it doesn't matter, the electric bill. I wish, if there wasn't as many people here, that the air conditioner didn't cost as much, but it costs the same amount of money to heat the bill or to cool the building with 100 people as it does with 1,000 people. Those expenses don't change, and same thing with staff and other stuff. So how can we help as a congregation, all of us pulling together? Thank you, ladies, for kind of shouldering this for us, but you really shouldn't have to shoulder this for us. We all ought to shoulder it together. So how can we help so the pressure is relieved a little bit?
I want to encourage everybody in the congregation to come to us with your ideas. If you have ideas about ways that we can save money or ways that we can generate some additional money, campaigns that you think people in the congregation would feel passionate about contributing to. We recognize that there are people who give just to the church, but there are some people who like to know exactly where their money's going, which is when it comes to those designated funds or certain campaigns. So we're open to every idea. This is your church. This is our church. It belongs to all of us. So seek me out, anybody on the finance committee, anybody on the staff. If you see us at church, our emails are available. Contact the church office if you want to know how to call me directly. We want your ideas. We want to know what had happened at a church that you were previously a member at that really worked, or what have you seen some of your friends' churches do? We want that. So I would say that that's one of the biggest things that I'm asking for, is for the participation from the congregation, and even visitors who might come and, hey, I'm not here all the time, but I know that these are things that have worked other places I've been. So that's the ask that I would make.
Yeah, because we really are doing some great things. I mean, it's really exciting, some of the things that are happening, the new people who are coming, the ministries that happen all the time on this campus is really touching a lot of lives and making a difference in a lot of people. And so we've just got to be able to continue that. And so we'll pray, and God will certainly be faithful to help us, but I also know that God always counts on us to cooperate, and so we'll pray and ask that we will be most cooperative, and we'll continue to give as being generous people, so that we can be a generous church, and remember the church in your wheels. I mean, it's one of the ways that people forget, but We're not always going to be able to be here to support the church with our tithes and givings. We're all going to die, unfortunately. And when that happens, one of the ways we can continue the ministry of this church is through our wills and remembering the church in our wills. Any other plans that the leadership of the church has in addressing our financial health issues?
Well, we have a lot of ideas. We talked earlier today about coming up with a more focused plan to make sure that we are all clear on exactly what items are in the budget. And then as finance chair, and again, I'm just representing our finance committee, but I want to make sure that we're very transparent. I think the more transparent we are with the congregation, the more they understand what money is being spent and where, will help with addressing our financial health. I just think more communication, more dialogue is what I see will help with our financial health. Obviously, other than everybody who's seeing this right now, just writing a check or calling the church office and talking to Susan about contributing.
Yes, this could be like our little phone campaign, like they do on NPR and all those. Call in with your donation today.
We need some entertainment to go along with it.
Exactly. Yeah. Where's the entertainment?
But I think the communication is key too, because I think there's probably a lot of people in the congregation that don't necessarily know if it hasn't been communicated enough. They may think everything's fine, and we're trying to let them know that, to continue doing the things that we do and offer all these ministries, we've got to support the other things, because if the building's not here and the staff's not here to do all those ministries, we can't continue any of it.
Yeah.
I think we all have faith that we'll get there, but we need to put that faith into action.
Yeah. Well, and also we quit putting in the bulletin how much we received and so forth. But I think it would be good. We're back to where we feel confident with our numbers, right. And so maybe we could start putting back in the bulletin and the weekly e-news that here's what we brought in this week or last month or however you want to do it, and here's what we've spent. So, and we won't even talk about the map or the ministry action plan. We'll just talk about real numbers. Here's what was spent, and here's what was brought in, and here's the difference. And we begin to see that together. And I think it would be great for the whole congregation to get a financial report showing everything that we just said today, at least once a quarter, and let us know how we're doing together, so we all can take responsibility for this together. Well, you're both doing an outstanding job, and I know that the finances of the church weigh heavy upon your hearts and minds. Please know that it's not your cross to bear alone, that we are all in this together, and all of us at Coming First United Methodist Church have the responsibility to ensure that the finances are supplied so that we can fulfill the ministry action plan that we feel God's calling us to as a congregation. So thank you for leading us and for informing us and for keeping up with all this for us. So may we all pray that God helps us clearly understand God's desire for our giving, and if we're doing all that we can do, then God is most pleased. And if there's something that God is still asking of us, then may we find the joy in being obedient to that and in seeing God's kingdom accomplished through us. What joy that brings us. Well, until next time, may the peace and the joy of the Lord be with you.